the example that people use the most is Schoolhouse Rock. People start going Conjunction, Junction, or I'm Just a Bill on Capitol Hill. I mean, those are songs that people heard on TV, right, between cartoons or whatever as a kid. And now they're adults and they're still singing those songs. So it's just that when you have enough exposure to music-based learning, it's something you can remember forever.
So now, please welcome the official, non-official, non-sponsor of the Savannah Bananas, but a big fan. Please welcome John Fletcher.
Well, thank you, my friend Jesse Cole, owner of the Savannah Bananas, and welcome to this week's edition of 15 on Fridays with Fletch. We're going to show one of the video clips right now, the examples of Muzology.
Diameter goes around in each circle 3 times and a little more. No matter how big or small the circle is, pi is always 3.14. Playback. Diameter goes around in each circle 3 times and a little more. No matter how big or small the circle is, pi is always 3.14. 3.14 on until infinity. Let's go do more. Come along and sing with me.
Welcome back to 15 on Fridays with Fletch. We're talking with Lana Israel, the founder of Muzology, the incredible music concept that teaches math to students. One other question with that, Lana, these students are able to retain. They don't just get the song and then they're good for 5 minutes. They're knowing these concepts for 2, 3, 5 years later, right?
Yeah, John. So that's such a great question. And you can answer this question yourself. Do you still remember the words to songs you heard as a teenager in middle school? You do.
Yes.
Even if you haven't heard the song for decades.
Yes.
Okay. And I think everyone tuning in can relate to that as well. So there's something very powerful about how music exists and how our brains work and function, such that information put to music directly activates brain regions that are critical for successful and sustained learning. And those brain regions are memory, attention, motivation, emotional centers of the brain. And so what happens is something very synergistic and amazing, that when you're able to teach using the medium of music and you have the right methodology, which is what we've spent years developing, but you have the right methodology attached, the learning's not kind of one and done, here today, gone tomorrow. It's learning that is sustained and can be retrieved almost forever. Once those lyrics get transferred into long-term memory through the power of music, you should be able to remember the math you learned in elementary, middle school that we're teaching for the rest of your life. Oh, and John, I'm going to give you an example right now. Like, when I talk about this, the example that people use the most is Schoolhouse Rock. People start going Conjunction, Junction, or I'm Just a Bill on Capitol Hill. I mean, those are songs that people heard on TV, right, between cartoons or whatever as a kid. And now they're adults and they're still singing those songs. So it's just that when you have enough exposure to music-based learning, it's something you can remember forever.
Well, and not only that, but also think back to we learned our alphabet by singing about the ABCs. I will not try to sing because I'm not so gifted. Another thing is that you've helped thousands of teachers and families during the pandemic by offering your services for free. Why did you do that?
Well, I think the pandemic was a very uncertain, scary time for our country. And when schools were disrupted or shut down or moved to remote, we were placed into pretty much a catastrophic situation for educators, students, and their families. And so we just felt it was the moral, the ethical thing to do. I know at that time, people were trying to figure out what they could do or contribute to help in any way possible. We had lots of heroic people certainly in the medical professions showing up and doing amazing things. And so that's what we could do. We could donate the platform during that time. And we had some amazing anecdotes. I had a teacher reach out to me and say that while her colleague students all showed marked learning loss during the pandemic, she was using Muzology for remote learning, and her students actually had learning gains during the pandemic, which was unheard of. Then I got on the parent level, we received an email for a parent who said that she had started using the platform with her son who was struggling with math, but didn't realize that she had a daughter with autism who she said started watching the videos and had massive benefit from the videos as well. So it was really quite quite a touching time to see the impact that the platform could have when I think when people were struggling a lot, suffering a lot, and in dire need of any little glimmer of hope or encouragement, especially in the context of learning, something that would make learning bring the fun and joy back into learning.
Speaking of joy in learning, didn't you find that when students started excelling in math, that that gave them the confidence to do better all across the board in all their subjects?
Absolutely. We were talking about this negative reinforcing feedback loop and then this positive reinforcing feedback loop. And so that isn't limited to math. That for the learner gets generalized to all aspects of their life. So one of my favorite quotes from a student ever about her use of Muzology was that Muzology has not just given me confidence in my ability to do math, it's given me confidence in my ability to do anything.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Tell us
Yeah.
about your customer. Is it traditionally an entire school district?
It's for any educator, learner, parent who would like to utilize the platform. We've worked over the years to make the platform as flexible as possible and to offer it to anybody interested in benefiting from this music powered approach to learning. So states can get the platform, districts can get the platform, schools can get the platform, individual teachers can get the platform, parents, grandparents, caregivers, guardians can get the platform for kids at home. Homeschool parents can get the platform. Anyone interested in utilizing Muzology can absolutely jump on board.
You've earned some impressive recognition with grants from the National Science Foundation and awards from the U.S. Department of Education and more. Tell us what makes Muzology stand out.
Absolutely. First of all, I do want to now and eternally thank the National Science Foundation and Institute of Educational Sciences, part of the U.S. Department of Education, for their support. It was an essential and an extremely meaningful part of our growth and development as a company, and I think it's really important that the United States continues to support programs like that help innovative small businesses in America develop, grow, and succeed. And these were R&D grants, so they enabled us to engage in more technically risky R&D for an early stage company. So that was just a fabulous experience, and we're very grateful for that. And I think so. One thing that makes us stand out is due to that. One thing that makes us stand out is that we are research-based, we're evidence-based, and we were able to spend time on R&D and development. And so rather than a let's throw it at the wall, see what sticks approach, which was what was going on with education technology in learning about 10 to 15 years ago. And it caused a lot of blowback because suddenly what happened is educators, administrators, even kids and parents realized we're using these digital tools and quote unquote solutions in the classroom, but they're not really solving anything, right? in many cases, performance was decreasing. And so, and in a way that hurt the whole industry, gave like the whole industry a bad reputation. And so while that was going on, we were doubling down on the research, the science, the data, really understanding the use cases. We were in the classroom regularly, interacting with teachers and students, understanding what was working and not working, understanding their needs. And so I think all of that is part of what makes us unique. And I think the other thing is the methodology we use. Music is engaging and fun. And then I would say the third thing is the quality of our content in terms of production value and rigor. So educators and kids see the videos and they're a little bit shocked at the quality of them. They're not used to seeing things done at that level of production and quality and that level of creative. And at the same time, we have teachers go, the videos are rigorous, they don't miss anything. And so it's not necessarily easy to do that, John, balancing high quality entertainment value with the academic rigor, but we don't compromise on either of those things. And I think that's what's enabled us to create a really unique, compelling platform.
One of the things you have to look at is finding a school district or a teacher that is more of a risk taker. If you go back in business, the statement was nobody ever got fired for buying IBM, meaning that you would buy the IBM computer or the IBM typewriter, whatever it might be. But along comes Dell and comes these others that were better innovators. So you have some decision makers that say, well, but if I use the same old tried and true, I can save my job, even though the tried and true isn't working. So how do you get across to a school district or to a state about that the risk is worth it because the payoff is so incredible?
Yeah, great question. And I think that question underscores part of the challenge of innovation in education. And by the way, it makes sense to have tempered and considered risk when you are an administrator and you're making decisions that will impact your districts. So I think caution is important. When it becomes problematic is, to your point, it's when the impulse is to say no versus truly explore the potential value and merits of something that can be transformative. Having said that, I just spoke to how a lot of these districts have gotten burned by education technology that doesn't work. So administrators are in a tough position. I have found that recently there's a lot more of an appetite for innovation, sadly, due to how horrible performance and test scores are. I mean, we're clocking some of the lowest test scores in the history of these tests that have been national tests and benchmarks that have been around for decades. We've got a teacher shortage issue. We've got teacher burnout, teachers leaving the profession. So in many schools and classrooms, you don't necessarily have the most qualified or experienced teachers, and they need support. And so I think the issue is becoming so dire that on the one hand, some people who would have only bought IBM are now open to buying Apple, to use your example. And so there's more of an appetite for considered risk, I would say. And but I have to say that you are right, John. It does take someone at the district level or administrative level who is open-minded, who will give a new company like ours, and by that we're not one of those 800-pound textbook publisher, 800-pound gorillas, textbook publishers who have been around for 100 plus years or so. And so there's also still, I think, a bias to keep doing what we've been doing, even though what we've been doing isn't working, which we know is what Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And so I hope there are ways to create channels and forums for high-level administrators to be able to explore, see, access evidence-based, vetted, innovative solutions. Because I think until we do so, our country's in a lot of trouble educationally.
We're talking with Dr. Lana Israel about musology, and that's the way that students learn math through music. We'll be back with segment 3 in just a moment.